with you. If this is your first time here, my name is Olori Lawade Scantily Monies, founder of NOR Labs, founding monk at Soul Medicine Sanctuary, where we liberate ourselves from within using the medicine, the music, the art, the sound, the prayer, the scripture, the hugs, the touch, the intimacy. So, you've seen me do a lot of different things on here. You've seen me do movement slash yoga. You've seen me sing. You have seen me, I've probably done some videos while walking, maybe Instagram, if not here. You've seen me think out loud. You've seen me cite literature, Afrofuturist literature, right? And what I'm doing my best to do is to document a new way of learning and meaning making and knowledge production. One of the key reasons I wanted to get a PhD is because I wanted desperately to produce knowledge that would help my people get free permanently. That was the initial inspiration. Shout out to Perrier and poetry. Some of y'all might remember those conversations from St. Mark's and Nostrand back in the 2000s. Okay, the early aughts, or they call them, or the mid late aughts. Yeah, so we've been at this for a long time. Shout out to Dane Peters, shout out to Ayodele, shout out to Sekou My Baby and Elemi. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Wumi Olaya. I see that the camera is shaking, so I don't really know how to fix that. So I apologize. I'm going to try not to lean on the table. Yeah, shout out to St. Mark's and Nostrand. Shout out to the folks on the corner who used to look out for me and tell me when people were coming by my place. Shout out to the dope boys who held it down and protected the block. Shout out to the family, the love, the people that, when they say Brooklyn is love, my child is looking at me like, this is what it is to talk about Brooklyn. Brooklyn is just, I can't tell you how much I miss you. Darling, my darling Brooklyn, my sugar daddy. Come on, Brooklyn. Okay. Anyway, Yoruba Futurism. So the linchpin, the crux of my Brooklyn community, my Brooklyn village was Wumi Olaya. And she is the one that opened me up into a whole new world of Yoruba futurists, Yoruba artists, Yoruba contemporary thinkers. And when I tell you, that network is just full of superstars. It's just pure superstars. Shout out to CY Nakpodia. She's over at CUNY. She's the one who got me my my job at Verizon, right? And my first job at CUNY, right? My job at CUNY. So Shaya Olusa, Oluwashaya, I love you. You know that you're the love of my life. I'll always love you. Oluwashaya Olusa, favorite photographer ever. Just go check out his work. I think his website is up at oluwashaya.com maybe, or oluwashayaolusa.com. Wumi is wumi.com. If you Google CY Nakpodia, I think she's at cynakpodia.com. Shout out to Ito, Edongasit Ito, best illustrator I have ever seen in my life. I look forward to being able to hire her for some artwork. So we're going to be talking about Yoruba Futurism while making some Yoruba Futurist art. Thank you for the kind words, darling. Thank you. So I have some grocery bags here. My first canvas, I made, like my first wall size canvas, I made in 2022, right? And the visual artist has been desperate to get out of me. She's been clawing her way out, and I've been pushing her away. I have. I'm gonna confess. And she's not having it anymore. And so, sometimes you just don't have a lot of outlets, so you can use the body as a canvas, right? And so this has been my primary canvas. But also, I love to do my daughter's hair and to do hair for those I love. Hair styling, hair medicine is its own, it's its own form of medicine. It's a spiritual experience. So y'all know, those who know about the head, the crown, the ori, the hands, the medicine, you know that you don't let just anybody touch their head, and you don't do just anybody's hair. And so I've been doing hair since I was a kid. I learned how to braid my own hair, and I was a master at it. Y'all remember me at Rockbridge with the braids on my back. What you talking about? What you talking about? I was slaying at like 15, okay? So don't play with me. Anyway, I have always used myself as a canvas, truth be told, especially when I didn't have the permission to be a visual artist as a Nigerian growing up in America. I do not claim the title Nigerian American because I do not identify as American, and I still have my Nigerian passport by God's grace, right? So thank you guys so much. You're so sweet. Can you just go to after this, don't leave this, but after you're done, go to soulmedicine.substack.com. I want you guys to subscribe, whether free or paid. I want to have some events with those of you guys who are regulars. I want to know more about you. Tell me more about you guys, what brought you here, what you're enjoying, what you want to see more of, and tell me what you're working on, what you're doing, like how the community can support you. All right. So the purpose of this is to just like really pour out the medicine that wants to come out as far as Yoruba Futurism. So I start with Yoruba Futurism at my altar with my two grandmothers. That is the beginning of my Yoruba Futurism. Y'all will be crazy in the comments. That is the beginning of Yoruba Futurism. I have a very specific story about my grandmothers and how they transitioned into the heavenly realm, and how it just made me so curious. It was just some very specific elements of that experience that was just like, nah, something going on. I gotta know more about this. What is this about? What is this sign for? Blah blah blah. And this is how I got more interested in the spiritual technology, the spiritual history, the spiritual medicine, right? This is what Brooklyn does to you. You know, you can't be part of like Black creative Brooklyn and not get in touch with the spiritual. And so when I was like a baby, I think I moved to Brooklyn at like 21. I mean, I was a baby. Okay. And I was just in heaven. When I tell you I was in heaven, I don't know how else to describe it. Brooklyn is still heaven to me. When we talk about Black Mecca, Black heaven, like the closest thing we have in my experience is Brooklyn, because there is a level of melanated autonomy that you see in Brooklyn that you don't see anywhere else in the world, right? It's one thing to have a Black population. It's another thing to have an autonomous Black population in a city, in a borough, in a neighborhood. People who know how to hold their money, grow money, and build their portfolio of real estate. Don't get me started on Brooklyn, right? So the Black people in Brooklyn know what time it is, and they know how important it is to be organized and to be ready for self-defense at any given time, right? And when you look at the infrastructure of what we would call underground Brooklyn, right, where the streets are, where the youth are, what they're doing, what they're talking about, who they're listening to and platforming, right? When you look at the underground infrastructure, you have an insight into what Black military security can look like in our communities if you're paying attention. Do I need a board? This is where my canvas is going to be. So I'm really excited. So let me just show you. I mix up brown paper bags, but right now, you know, we have Trader Joe's. I was like, who are we allowed to support? Drop some Black farmers in the comments. Shout out to Black Farmers Index. Shout out to Spill. I'm looking forward to sharing more knowledge about Black farmers. If you have any knowledge about Black farmers or Black farms we should support, please do not hesitate to put them in the comments. Or, you know, if you want to write, if you want a platform to publish your writing at norpress.org, you can hit us up at editor@norpress. I haven't checked that email in a very long time. So I actually recommend that you email team@norlabs, because that gets checked just about daily. So anyway, why did I bring up the NorPress? I don't remember, but I want to explain to you how I started making canvases out of grocery bags. I mean, obviously, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so I love muslin. That's always been like my favorite textile. And a lot of like our indigo from West Africa and other parts of the world that are invested in indigo. Black farmers are the original. Yes, we are the OG, original people of the planet. Okay, so necessity is the mother of invention. Muslin would have been my preferred, and I was looking for muslin. I was looking around for muslin. My daughter put me on, I think, or Ishara, shout out to Ishara, my baby girl, put us on to Fab Scrap in Brooklyn. And so we went there and we worked and we earned fabric. That's heaven for me, like working for fabric. Listen, I will work for fabric. So if you need some storytelling or, you know, some coaching, some life coach, life support, like you need somebody to talk to, I will work for fabric. I promise you. Okay. So anyway, shout out to Ishara, Gordon Bethel, little mama entrepreneur who's doing her thing, throwing it down in Brooklyn. We are very proud of you, darling. And to Tepra, we're very proud of you, darlings. I think about you little girls all the time. So my daughter's like, what's happening? So Fab Scrap. So you go to Fab Scrap. I believe they're still doing this. But you go to Fab Scrap, and you can work for like, I think it's like a 3 hour shift, 2.5. I can't remember the exact window, maybe 2 hours. You like take labels off of fabric, like you're helping them organize fabric, like whatever like grunt work they need done. That's what you're doing for like a few hours. And then you get to go in this like marvelous heavenly room with every type of textile you could ever imagine, except not predominantly African textiles, but you know, from the Western fashion philosophy, fashion perspective, this was like a very, very, you know, I loved the leathers that they had at Fab. I mean, come on, they were throwing it down. So, um, textiles, looking for muslin, feeling an urge to create, you know, physical art, like material art. And I have been an artist since I was a child. I just haven't always taken it seriously, right? And the most permissible form of art that I was allowed to engage with was technology, right? I studied visual design a little bit in high school, and I fell in love with it. I did like magazines with like photography. I was taking pictures of everybody, right? This is the shit I was doing as a baby, okay? This is what I've always done. I just breathe documenting, right? Documentation. So I I had like a little magazine project in high school, maybe like one of my senior or junior year projects, and I remember I'm so proud of the pictures. Like somebody got my some of my lost goods. If you have this magazine out there with my bestie Nabila Khalil in it, please get it back to Nora Labs. We'll take care of you. Um, so made a magazine, got to college, and had to declare a major. And by the time I was like enrolled in college and had my scholarship, thank God for my full George Brooks scholarship. That's the only way I went to undergrad. But my mom would have, you know, like she told me she would have worked 2 jobs to put me through college if she had to. But thankfully, she didn't have to. So we went through. So we went through me trying to choose a major, right? And I just remember sitting there with the counselor lady who was kind of impatient. She was like, make up your mind, little girl. I got things to do, right? And so, but she was, you know, she was laying out the options for me. And I was like, okay, if I do computer science, then, you know, how does that look? And if I do, you know, like graphic design, multimedia, how does that look? And I just didn't know how to translate multimedia to my parents because, like, you're not a lawyer, doctor, engineer. What are you doing, right? Thankfully, I was supposed to be on the pre-legal track, but we'll talk about that later. So anyway, um, I'm giving you my whole life story. So went into computer science as an avenue to have something where I could still play with computers because I did really enjoy like working with computers. I felt really like a natural at it from high school. Anybody who knows me knows that I've always been, you know, just good with the gadgets, and I'm gonna be teaching y'all about some of the gadgets. But anyway, went into computer science and was like salivating on over like the journalism degree. Like looking at the journalism students like, can I be you? And every semester I'd be like, I'm changing my major. I'm changing and my friends from Mizzou remember. It's like, I'm changing my major. I'm changing my major every other day. But I just like had to get out of Missouri. It was like, if changing my major was going to keep me in Missouri a day longer, it was just not happening. So I had to graduate and get you know, into New York. My goal was New York, right? So now get the computer science degree. Don't want to use it. Do like no internships in college because I hate this shit, but it's also easy for me. I'm also getting like A's and B's. I shouldn't say easy, like, you know, Timmy Talk, I remember staying up all night in the lab, right? We put in work, but I didn't struggle as much as a lot of students. And so it was just really interesting to be like one of like 2, 3, 4 Black people in these classes of like, you know, these lecture halls for computer science classes. And, you know, people like, it was like normal to graduate with like a C average, right? But who gets C averages in a Nigerian family? What's wrong with you? Don't get me. So, you know, still had to get like A's and B's, right? And I did very well. I had like a, you're so sweet. Thank y'all. I'm trying to tell you how to put some money in the chat. If you want to support Nora Labs, which is always a wonderful thing to do to get my prayers and blessings and sweet kisses. You want to support Nora Labs, you can go to noralabs.org/support. There's a lot of different ways to engage with us there. Hit the donate button. put in $100, we'll send you a tote bag. We're making some textiles now. You'll get some art. So what kind of art do you want? We'll talk about that. What kind of textiles do you want? What kind of fab scrap projects do you want? We'll be making stuff together. So Yoruba Futurism. So with me, so I get the computer science degree, end up in New York ultimately working in tech jobs. That was the only way I was going to eat because all the other stuff I was roaming around doing was literally starving me to death. So then get the tech job, and I'm a superstar. Got a lot of money, can afford a fancy, huge Brooklyn, brownstone apartment, and I'm, how to swing things swinging, right? And I was enjoying the. Are we gonna talk about church? I was enjoying the the freedom and the prestige of the pretty young black girl with the computer science degree who's making $70,000 or whatever right out of college. But this is a year like a year and a half. Was this 2 years after graduation? This was like a year and change after graduation, right? So my parents had already been sweating bullets by the time I got this job, right? But I was doing just this whole airy fairy gypsy, I'm not allowed to say that, but nomad thing, Fulani thing. The Fulani's nomads sometimes. I was doing this nomad thing, and it's just a part of the creative process. I don't know what else to tell you. You just got to experience life and beauty and wonder and spaciousness, and calm and rest. And you make art from there. You divine from there. You tap into the divine and what God wants to say through you, Whew. I'm going to send some love. I'm going to send some love to my loved ones, my beloveds, right now. You want to do that with me? Yoruba Futurism. Let's make a Yoruba future in which we are one. Okonsosholawa. Okonsosholawa. I'm sending you love. I'm feeling you here with me. I'm appreciating you for all you've put in. Thanking you right now. Giving you hugs and kisses. Playing. The kids are playing. We're hand clapping. I was supposed to put a microphone on. We're hand clapping. We're dancing. We're eating kale salad and coconut ice cream. You know what it is when you come to my house. I take care of you. I takes care of you. Let me see if I can get the microphone in here because I want to be so careful about the sound. How's my sound today? So we have a scripture in the chat I want to share because yes, you can always give me scripture and you can give me Quranic quotes too. You can give me let me know how my sound is. And we're gonna work on our canvas. So I need to be working while I'm talking to y'all, but I hope I've given you a little bit of a background. So shout out to Auntie Wumi Olaya, my baby girl's godmother. And shout out to Desiree Gordon, former should have been. Don't let me start. Don't let me start because I might start drama because I have questions about certain arts institutions, but I'm grateful that Mom Donnie is putting money back into the art. So I'm really looking forward to what happens with that. You can't hear me? Somebody said no sound. Okay, I got a thumbs up. Please let me know. Thank you so much. Please always let me know if my sound is off or low or problematic or if it's interference so I can clean it up for y'all so you can hear me easily. Okay. So yeah, our last big project, we worked with the Brooklyn Arts Council. So I'm talking about being an artist, a creative artist, right? An artist scholar, creative artist scholar, whatever, techie shaman. It's passing through a lot of these different environments, professional environments that really equipped me with the understanding to look at how we build the best liberated technology, right? So like I told you, I was building apps, I was writing code, software at 17 years old, at the University of Missouri, and I wrote COBOL, I wrote JavaScript, I don't think Python was a thing then, I wrote PHP, I wrote HTML, I learned a lot of tech scripts, right? software scripts and languages, and that was the core practice of the computer science degree. You were going to build stuff, which was a very great education, I guess, looking back. But now, if that education had taught me how to build things that liberate my people, then it would have been even 100 times, 10,000 times better, right? One of the things that was nice is that some of my projects, I had the freedom to build what I wanted. So I remember building the Women of Aya at University of Missouri Columbia. I built the Women of Aya their first website, by hand from scratch in HTML. I was so proud. Everybody was so proud. Was so happy. And this was the group that taught me how to, go natural. Taught me how to love my black skin, my melanin. Taught me how to wash my hair with sage tea and the magic of sage, and how to take care of my nails and my hair as a black woman, and the steaming and the cream. I got the master. If they could have given us a certificate, they gave us a master class on how to grow black hair on that University of Missouri campus at the Black Cultural Center. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to Women of Aya. Shout out to Evan. I want to say Park. Lanita Jones. Shout out to y'all beloveds. I hope y'all still out there, at least on my Facebook. If I got anybody's name wrong, please don't hesitate to correct me. But yeah, the Women of Aya, that was my first sort of like, maybe it's in the archive somewhere. I don't know where the screenshots will be, but I can still see the cream colored, like light yellow website in my head, right? And this is liberatory technology, right? Us building the platforms to allow us to connect with each other, to find each other. The fundamental essentiality of Black liberation technology, Black liberation structure, is networks that allow us to connect directly to each other without having to go through people who don't have our best interests in heart. Let me just put it that way. Okay? So, Black liberation technology is about technology that liberates us, that equips us, that empowers us, that makes sure that we eat. Is this thing on? Can anybody hear me? If they don't, make sure, can you name an app that makes sure that you eat, nigga? Please put the names in the chat. Y'all, I get riled up. So Portal X is designed to make sure you eat, nigga. That's the most basic way I could put it. Okay, if you need more information, just ask me a question. Okay. Portal X is designed to make sure niggas eat, that niggas have access to pure, holy, holistic food, especially from Black farmers, especially from African farmers, especially from indigenous farmers all over the world, at accessible prices, so that we can eat, nigga. Okay? Can you send me an app that makes sure you eat? Because I would love to be on that app, but I couldn't find one, so I'm building one. So that's what your dollars go to when you pay for a subscription at soulmedicine.substack.com. That's where your dollars go to when you book a consulting session with me via the norlabs.space site. Or again, the easiest thing is probably to just email us, team@norlabs.org. If you still have my old Brooklyn number, 347-866-1645, go ahead and text me on that. If I want to come to your university, you got university programming, let's talk. You want to see Black art, Black film, curated for Black youth audiences, let's talk. You want to have talks on the interplay and intersection between Anikulapo and sinners, let's talk. Let's look at the analysis of our art as liberation technology and spiritual medicine, social medicine, healing work. So I'm here to show you my canvas making as an example of my contribution to Yoruba Futurism, as I am using this canvas to heal myself and to tell my story and to reclaim my agency and my purpose and my breath and my divinity. It is a daily work. It is a daily walk. It is work. Okay. And it's essential. And so I keep getting to the part about, Wumi and working in Brooklyn, and it's like, how do we get here? What am I doing? So I'm gonna cut. I'm feeling like I want to cut, but I think this is how I did it originally. So we cut the bag on the side, and you can't really see, but I guess I'll try to make it more visible. We're cutting the bags. We're gonna make them long so they can be panels. This is how you make a canvas when all you got is grocery money. Okay, if that. So now you can start with such a canvas, but you can also strengthen it, and you can turn it into something really powerful. So I have always been really interested in recycling since I was a kid. Like anything, like I learned how to make paper, anything that had to do with like recycling or turning something from what it was to something new, I was all about it. I made this like denim skirt and jacket as a 10-year-old that I made from cut up jeans, right? Like any way I could find what I had around me to turn it into something. That is how I have always operated. And so thinking about my practice as a creative person, it's always intended to repurpose and to integrate and assimilate the most beautiful and most powerful and most effective liberating elements. If you feel me, you catch my drift. So thinking about the different programming that I have done throughout my life and my career as art, right? As forms of space making, place making, as forms of technology, as forms of immersive medicine, right? Um, Healing people, healing our mental health through community, through beauty, through the essentiality of Blackness, right? That is the sort of baseline of how I work, because the reason any of this is getting done, right, is because Black people need the medicine, right? We need the medicine. We can talk about liberation. We could talk about marching and voting and fuck all that. Do it if you want to. I respect you. But for me, right here, fuck all that. Okay? How do we put that on a t-shirt? What we need is structures, infrastructure, systems, computers, internets. You understand what I'm talking about? Are you here? Is anybody here? Am I talking to myself? Anybody here in the room? So structures, systems, computers. And shout out to Howard. Shout out to Spelman. Shout out to all the Black universities, the HBCUs, and so forth that cater to Black communities and are making sure that our people have access to farms, to farm food. Shout out to you if your HBCU or your university is making sure your students and faculty have food in the coming times. Shout out to the churches. I'm trying to remember the name of the Black Church Farm Network, but look them up. Really amazing work that they're doing. If your church ain't feeding you, why do you go there? Your church need to feed you at least once a month, if not weekly, especially if you tithe in. But then either way. So I'm just taking the stickers off. That's what I'm doing right now. I don't like the way I cut the first one, so I think they've changed the way that they design the bags, but I'm about to find out in a second. I'm about to just open it from the bottom. And I don't like to advertise none of these mofos, though. Sorry. We're going to take that down. Okay, so with me working in New York, so my first job in New York was I was a network engineer for a small company called Chelsea Technologies, right? They were basically a consulting firm who the majority of their clients were hedge funds. And so I got to work with a lot of hedge funds, hedge fund managers. I say got to, but I also outgrew that type of energy. But worked with a lot of hedge funds managers, had to go to a lot of people's like penthouse lofts to fix their VPN or whatever. Took boats to freaking mansions in Jersey to go and like help somebody reset their password type shit. Like That was what I was doing. And I was working like 70 hours a week on average, between 60 and 70 hours a week. And I was making a lot of money. And I was tired. You know, I was reading Che Guevara on my way to work every day. I was reading Sheikh Anta Diop. I was reading probably a little bit of Ivan Van Sertima, Black History in the Bible. It was during this time that I was hosting Perrier and Poetry at my Brooklyn brownstone apartment. So that a lot of young folk my age, um, who were in college at the time or recently graduated, and felt the same passion for how do we get free or die trying. So that was when I mentioned Dane Peters earlier, and Fairleigh, that was the Perrier and Poetry family. So shout out to Perrier and Poetry. We're gonna have to get some t-shirts. But so I think I like this better. I'm just gonna rip it. This one has a join. I don't know if all of them have that, but I prefer to rip the join than to cut the bag. So gotta look at when these bags were made and when it was changed. So yeah, I was working in the city, living in Brooklyn, hosting Perrier and Poetry at least once a month, I want to say, and then Goureje. Shout out to Goureje. I imagine he might still be there. This is one of the longest lasting Afrofuturists that I've ever come across. And yeah, that was the thing. Brooklyn lived Afrofuturism. Everything around you in Brooklyn was Afrofuturism. This is just how we lived. Like liberated raw food that tasted good, you know, by black chefs and black artists, right? Juice bars, nigga. Brooklyn is the future, the black future. Okay, so there are things I would love to see change. Like shout out to Lekon Fu and his visual kind of greening up of Brooklyn through his architectural art. Um, oh, I'm getting rough with it. I need to be more patient. I think this is where I usually would spray it. So I will oftentimes use some water to soften the seams. There's a lot of water involved in this process, so I just use my little spray bottle. Um, so yeah, Perrier and Poetry, Gure J, Afrofuturism is Brooklyn, and then gosh, how did I? Okay, I'm trying to remember how I learned about the Malcolm X grassroots movement. So I also got involved in the Malcolm X grassroots movement, which is also a lot of young people recently out of college, and then some elders that, you know, I'm saying elders, they were like in their 30s, maybe going to 40. So they weren't elders for real, but to us, they were elders. So, yeah, so you had this intersectional community of young people who were either socially active on the liberation sort of infrastructure, and then you had folks who were students who were active, and then those who were part of organizations, right? Like Malcolm X grassroots movement. I'm gonna see if I can kneel down or something. So from the Malcolm X grassroots movement, I think I was in that after I had left my job at Chelsea, and it felt more exciting, like they were going to do something, right? Like it felt like they were doing things, they were creating things, they were buying land, and I believe that land is still owned in Georgia by the same community that made it happen. So shout out to y'all, shout out to Kamau Franklin. Um, gosh, I'm trying to remember your wife's name, but shout out to y'all. Y'all beautiful couple, beautiful family. Um, yeah, just a lot of folks have done, you know, this type of work in Brooklyn for ages. And I got into these scenes, and ultimately it was through Malcolm X grassroots movement that I met Kentucky. Kentucky introduced me to Wumi. Kentucky is the person who I started the Yoruba school process with. Prior to the Yoruba Cultural Institute, there was the Oduduwa School of Yoruba. The Oduduwa School of Yoruba, which was in Kentucky's Brownstone, where she went in. So we would have classes on the first floor, I think also second floor, depending on how many sessions were happening. And that was how I met my daughter's father as well, right? But with the Oduduwa School of Yoruba, we met through MXG at one of the women's meetings, and MXG, Malcolm X Grassroots Movement. And I was literally creating a Yoruba class the same time that she was. My aunt's nephew, my second cousin, I don't know what to call him, had just come from Nigeria, or he was coming, and I knew that he was going to help me teach her. I think I might have already asked him by this point, right? And so at this point I was dating someone who was fluent in Yoruba, and who I recognized I couldn't get as close to in English as I could in Yoruba. And so that really struck a chord in me. It really made me realize something about language and the importance of language, because then it opened my eyes to realizing, like, my parents, the barrier between like my generation and my parents' generation, right? And so the worldview that you are coded with, that you are designed with, that you are built with, is in your language. And so if the language that you speak is that different from the language that your children speak, then chances are you will have a very hard time understanding each other, your original languages, right? Now, when we study language from a worldview perspective, and it's not just about vocabulary, right? And we're thinking about how the people who created this language, how the people who have saved this language, how they think, how they view the world, how they view each other, how they engage with each other. What are their rules of engagement? What are the rules of participation in the community? What do their proverbs say? So on and so forth. So we started the Oduduwa School of Yoruba. I started out as a student. She was further along than me, because I think I met her teacher that night. She had a space, and she was ready to go. So I was like, yeah, let's go. So, she allowed me to take classes in exchange for my support with helping to build the school. And so I was like, all right, I was going to do this. Let's do it together. And so it was a very interesting experience. But I think this is, if I show the Oduduwa School of Yoruba flyer, you will see evidence of Yoruba Futurism. I am realizing that I have been a Yoruba futurist, a visual artist in that sense for a long time, but most of the visuals I was commissioning. The Oduduwa School of Yoruba flyer, I actually did that by hand, like probably Illustrator, Photoshop combination, right? And so I used to do a lot of flyers for these types of uh, these types of community activations, these types of strategic organizations and institutions and events and whatnot. And so I didn't know at the time that I was building a body of visual art that would sort of argue for my identity as a Yoruba futurist, a visual, sonic, just multidimensional creator who is practicing Yoruba Futurism. So did a flyer for the Yoruba school. I designed the Omo Yoruba T-shirt, and we agreed that that was my brand. And yeah, and so we would go to the Nigerian Independence Day. You got to send me these edits for Teka. We love you, Teka. Tell me, what is Teka? You got to tell me more about Teka. I don't think I saw your messages about that on the last video. So anyway, yeah, we would go to Nigerian Independence Day Parade. We would sell the Oma Yoruba T-shirts. We would recruit people for the Yoruba classes. And that was how I met my daughter's father. He was highly recommended everywhere we went. People said, you need to contact this man. He teaches Yoruba at the mosque. He's really, really good, and you got to have him. And so it took a while for us to get in touch with him, but ultimately we were able to meet with him. And yeah, I was astonished by his knowledge. I'm a sapiosexual, so there are a lot of different dimensions to what happened in that relationship, but obviously I got the best thing in the world out of it, the best person in the world, my savior, my human savior, the reason I'm still here, right? So her dad taught Yoruba at the mosque in addition to running an educational consultancy. And so he he met with us at Sage. Shout out to the owner of Sage. I don't know what's happened, where you're at, but I love that place. I will always forever remember that place was stunning, and I always dream of recreating something like it. Um, But yeah, Sage, SAJE, we sat at this table, we talked about what we've been doing. And, Kentucky was just very like, she's a businesswoman. Like she'll, set a deal, right? And I was just like, oh, so pretty. So we agreed for him to come and teach. Ultimately, I think we had a couple meetings, maybe two or three, and we agreed for him to come and teach at the Yoruba school, the Yoruba School of Yoruba. And some interesting things happened, in that time where you obviously see that I have a child now. Tika, so let me do the thing for you. Just say we love you. We love you, Tika. Olori Lalade Kentele Monies at Soul Medicine Sanctuary. We love you, Tika. We love you all the I don't know what I call y'all, Shriners. What are the people who come here called? The believers, the soul medicine believers. Okay, so we love you, Tika. Um Yoruba Futurism. Yeah. So bringing this man who to me looked like a Bitty Bronze. I just thought he was a Bitty Bronze that came to life, right? And I was one of the fundamental things that I did was to help with the curriculum design, right? From as far back as then, what do people need to learn, right? It was kind of easy for us when we got started because you had, um, gosh, is it? Gosh, I need to know this man's name. But the beginner's Yoruba book, I think it was like F. Kayode or something like that. I'm so sorry if I'm missing. I'm gonna get your name right before I get off this live. But he wrote the beginner's Yoruba book. He wrote the Yoruba dictionary that was very popular, the green book that we used in those times. I highly recommend those books if you can get them from a Black bookstore. Even if you can get them directly from the author, please make the effort to do so. Um, we also the Jakaso Yoruba, Jakaka Yoruba, they came highly recommended. So if you're learning Yoruba and you don't have those books, I highly recommend that you get them. This is Antonia Fallering Schleicher at Indiana, I believe, maybe Bloomington University. Um, so let me see. Beginner's Yoruba. The book doesn't come up first, which I find interesting. But this was the little book that I bought back then in 2007 when I got serious about learning Yoruba. Um, the only listing I see is for $95 on thriftbooks.com. That is hilarious. Luckily, I have the ebook, but if you can get your hands on the real book, I highly recommend it. Very interesting. Looks like it's becoming a rare book. Ain't that something? We need to get another printer to pick it up. So, I said I was gonna correct the Coyote J fucking lady. Kentucky was badass enough that she got that man to come and meet us in Brooklyn, and come and give us a talk. Right, that's the kind of stuff that she would post. She would go find the people. She figure out how to get in touch with them. She would bring them into the room, which I thought was super impressive, super amazing. So, I'm just looking at some of the other books. So yeah, so we used his beginner's Yoruba book. We used his Yoruba dictionary, and gosh, it's been a good long while. Okay, so transitioned out of the Aduduwa school for reasons that I will like write in my book, but generally speaking, there were values mismatches. Right, what happens? Right, people. This is why you got to learn to assess your values before you engage in a particular thing at a certain level. Right. Um, so we had some values mismatches, went our separate ways, but now naturally he's teaching for the school and then dating me, who's no longer involved with the school. So really interesting how that went down. And so ultimately, the Yoruba Cultural Institute was born when students, indeed, people that we met that we helped to bring into the Oduduwa school, came and said they wanted to learn from him, right? And so it was a little, it was a little touch and go, but yeah, I mean, he was an amazing educator. I mean, you can't take that from him, no matter what. Really, really amazing educator. Everybody loved to learn from him. So yeah, this is how the Yoruba Cultural Institute got started. And so just in the effort to like tell that story and to make artwork to engage people to want to come to classes, I got really committed to making like really beautiful, uh, creative messaging that would bring people into the Yoruba programs, right? Didn't go that far because I didn't print, I guess I didn't distribute them far enough, but the art is still there and it's still very relevant to my work today. So Yoruba Futurism. Um, so it was through Kentucky and the Oduduwa school that I ultimately met Wumi. So Kentucky being from uh, Louisiana, was the one to introduce my Missouri Yoruba girl self to this whole other world of Nigerian creatives, Nigerian artists, right? Someone that I met through MXG and, who's interested in Yoruba language. And like many people who are not from Nigeria and who are interested in Yoruba language, it is because of her primary interest was because of relationships and also her spiritual practice, right? And so a lot of people in the work, doing the work in the streets, are using African indigenous spiritual structures and spiritual systems to protect themselves and to help advance their dreams in their lives, right? And so this practice was extremely prevalent in the movement communities, right? And so a lot of these people were interested in Yoruba language. And so this is how our programming at the Yoruba Cultural Institute came to be composed of people who were almost 50-50 often, right? As far as people who were from the Caribbean, from the diaspora, who practiced a form of Yoruba spiritual systems, and those from Nigeria who had been displaced culturally, displaced geographically, and lost the language in the process, or were born in the diaspora, or occasionally somebody who was like in a relationship with a Yoruba speaker and wanted to advance the Yoruba, right? So all of these are examples of Yoruba futurism that I'm sharing with you because ultimately what we are doing when we do these types of projects, and I want to talk about Wumi and her aesthetic and the music that she makes, but these projects are an intentional commitment to not only the preservation of the Yoruba language, culture, aesthetic, but also to the advancement of it. You look around and you see that the people who own land and call the shots militarily have their languages preserved and advancing every day. They're putting out dictionaries every other day. They're constantly updating their language. And you have your indigenous language being used as if it's a liturgical, historical language that nobody speaks anymore. Can you be for real? How many novels have you read in Yoruba? And I'm talking to myself too, because shout out to CY. She mentioned, I believe it was Abiola. I gotta look for my notebook. So I wrote down the title or the author that she was talking about. Awolowo apparently has a lot of good writing, and then Dio Fagunwa. So I've read a bit of Dio Fagunwa. Okay, Abiola. She said to read Abiola's work, proverb heavy. There's also Yoruba proverb books, which I highly recommend. I believe Kayode Fakinlede also has a Yoruba proverbs book. So literature, right? If a language is advancing, it is advancing because it's being documented and it's being used to document current history. So shout out to the Yoruba newspapers, shout out to the Yoruba bloggers and podcasts, because it is in these modalities that we keep our language not only alive, but growing, right? As new things happen and new events emerge, and the community has to find ways, or the nation has to find ways to discuss these new technologies or advancements or questions or discoveries or whatever they may be, and be able to keep that knowledge locked in to our linguistic community. When we can do that, then we are actually advancing a language. And you can't advance a language that nobody's speaking, especially if nobody's speaking that language in context where advancement is happening. Intentional advancement, documented advancement. Are you following me? Is anybody listening? All right. So this is all Yoruba futures. And I just have to give so much love to Wumi because, like, I talked about her, welcoming me into the village like a little sister, giving me books, giving me fabric, dressing me up in her gorgeous, gorgeous worn art, adornment art. Um, this was how I sort of really kind of got enveloped and welcomed into a space where it was okay to be Yoruba and creative and weird, and different, and to like things that were not like, you know, especially visually, to like things that were not commonly like our aesthetic, right? And so what I'm hoping to do in a very soon in another video is to really like lay out some of the visual culture and the visual language across the Yoruba futurists that I've been really hype about, especially women. It's going to be a lot of women because when I look at the people who give me excitement about the future and like what the aesthetic of Yoruba can and should be in the future is Mama Nike. Mama Nike Ogundaye's Davis Ogundaye's. We love you. Everybody knows and loves Mama Nika. I'm so fortunate to have met her a couple of times, been in the space, and I just, yes, she is one of the chief Yoruba futurists of the age. Sophie, I have to make sure I get this woman's last name correctly because I'm still learning about her work. But you may know who I'm talking about. I want to say it's Sophie Olu. I think it's at a tablet. I think I'm going to start leaving these devices down here so I can actually have a bedroom again. Okay, so Sophie, I'm going to pull up the stuff about her. I think it's Oluwole. So she is one of the earliest Yoruba futurists that I can identify because she was the one who came on record articulating the philosophical value of Yoruba indigenous spirituality, right? When folks come, welcome, welcome. Thank y'all for coming. So great to see you. When folks come into a culture, into a community to destroy it, to extract from it, to oppress that community, they have to separate the people psychically from their power. Power is psychic, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. And so if somebody makes you believe that your whole belief system is wrong, that's a very powerful way to completely separate you from your indigenous intelligence, from your divine intelligence, from your somatic intelligence, from your intuition, because they're telling you that your own way of knowledge making, your own way of sense making is not valid. Think about how violent that is psychologically. And so when they do this to you, it becomes easier to fill you with ideas that serve them and do not serve you. Okay. Sophie Oluwole, I believe. I'm gonna get her exact last name. Oluwole, I got it right. Go me, pat on the back. Okay. She talked about Ifa, Yoruba cosmology, as intelligence, right? She helped us to understand that this was intelligence, worldview, science. It wasn't just some primitive nonsense. That again is violence. Anybody calling your stuff primitive and unimportant, especially when you have all this knowledge. 256 Odus, are you kidding me? You want to tell me that's nothing? Please. So, Sophie Oluwole, Mamanike Ogundaye Davies, and Wumi Olaya. I think, and I tell her all this all the time, and I always tell anybody who will listen that Wumi Olaya's aesthetic is the highest cream of the crop for Yoruba futurism. It's what I see when I think of Yoruba futurism. I think of not only the high intelligence of the textiles, the design that she custom designs for these textiles, it's also the colors, the contrast, the weight of the fabric. Everything that she does in making these clothes is a science. It is an art form. And the fact that her clothes are affordable to people who are working class at this time is intentional, first of all, but also in some ways, some of that stuff needs to be seen as heirloom. People need to be paying for that stuff like they're paying for jewelry. I'm telling you, because you're gonna pass it down to your grandchildren. It's still gonna look top tier. I've shared my clothes so many times. I've given her clothes away that I mean, I've had a closet full of Wumi, and I've given to like maybe 5 to 10 people have things that I've gifted them, and they still look like the day I got them. So that is quality, and we're talking about high art here. So when they talk about couture, I don't know. I just know that this is a high art when it comes to women's fashion. So if you can get your hands on some Wow Wow, highly, highly recommend it. I believe if you go to wumi.com, you will find the rest of the market, but I want to say that there might be Wow Wow by Wumi.com. I will get these links up to date. Okay, so Yoruba Futurism, so Wumi, and then Folake Oluwofoyeku. If you watched Bob Hart's Abishala, you've heard of the show of this nurse falling in love, or the patient falling in love with his nurse, and this man really adoring. What is the name of the character? Abishala, obviously. This man Bob adoring Abishala and doing whatever it takes to win her, right, and to take care of her. And the fact that they're actually speaking Yoruba in this show, they actually have like cultural accuracy, respect for the culture. This is what makes this show so worthwhile, right? Like I didn't fully like jump in with every plot, but I loved seeing a chocolate Yoruba woman speaking Yoruba, interacting with her family in an accurate way for the most part, and being loved on. I mean, where have I seen that before, really, on like, this in this language or in this like cultural context? So really love the Yoruba futurism in that, but also the fact that she is an artist herself. She is a sonic artist, a music artist. She has a whole visual language, that's very Afrofuturist. So love, love, love Falake. And I text with Falake thanks to CY. I got to meet her last year, and I'm just obsessed. I'm a huge fan. So shout out to you. And then Solana, baby girl. I'm putting myself in the lineage after Auntie Falake, but Solana is she got next. I'm super super proud of you, Solana. If you ever see this, you are a gem. I just keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing. Your aesthetic is off the charts. They need to know about you, and I'm gonna make sure they keep telling them about you. So Solana, and I made a mistake to not mention the Lijadu sisters even before Wumi, obviously. Between I have to get my dates right, but I would imagine between Sophia Luwole and Nike Akundai Davis or Davies, um, we had the Lijadu sisters, right? And the music that Solana is making now is very reminiscent of the Lijadu sisters. And they're getting like a new boost, which is awesome. But I think it's so important to understand their stories. And Shiji, shout out to Shiji Awinka, who's made a film about them. I'm curious to know what the status is of the film, but I know that he has very top tier, very high tier visuals when it comes to telling our stories. So definitely check out anything he's done on the Vajadu sisters. Um, who else? Yeah, there's a lot of male names here, but I'm gonna focus on women today. And I want to talk about our grandmothers. Yeah. So the Lujado sisters they imagined radically different Black womanhood, right? They had agency. They used electronic experimentation. They were politically conscious, right? The sound was different. It was harmonious. They were distinct in their fashion, right? So all of these moments, these cultural moments, the histories of these people, these are essential for us to know when we're understanding who we are as Yoruba people in the world, and why you have so many Nigerians dominating in every field. There's something important about that. There's something to be known, to be noted, to understand why that is and how we're supposed to use that to our benefit, right? The idea of me being able to use my gifts and my power, my beauty for my own benefit, the same thing that's true for how we have to operate as Nigerians, as Africans, as global South people, as indigenous people of the planet. So prayer, our grandmothers. So when I started to think about Yoruba futurism and even my art, I'm making this art to get a lot of things out of my body. That's just what artists do. There's things that you have to write, there's things you have to sing, and then there's things you have to physically make and see them in the flesh. And this is something that has been calling to me to make, and I just am getting back into it. And so when you when you make this type of art and you engage with it as spiritual medicine, right? There's something very potent about that and very important and very essential as far as like how we use our magic, how we transform or transmute whatever's inside of us that we need to say or we need to express, right? This is what Yoruba futurism is to me. So I lost my train of thought and I'm remembering that I was talking about my grandmothers. And so when I talked about using this for healing, I was talking about the fact that, like, literally in therapy, this is what became material. This is what became obvious. This is what became essential, is that I needed to document my feelings, my experience, my story in a visual way that I could engage with on a wall, right? Like, because I very much like, I work in big space. So I knew that I needed a wall canvas. I already have one. I told you about the one that I made in 2022. That project is still, it's going to be revived soon. So it's intended to be collage work, right? I tend to sort of default to collaging or custom curating, right? And so when I talked about like my early high school time, like learning how to use the tools like Photoshop, collage was like my favorite genre, so to speak, my favorite visual genre. So it's really easy for me to like take, and especially when I'm talking about recycling, right? It's easy for me to like take existing materials, fabrics, whatever, turn it into a canvas, and then use materials that I'm finding or sourcing to like express the thing that's in my body that needs to come out, right? Whether it's the shame, whether it's the rage, whether it's the love, the joy, the excitement, the beauty, right? Like I need to have all those feelings out visibly and be able to narrate like an expression of my experience in the world in a way that, again, my daughter can use and move on. So I hope I made the point about Yoruba Futurism that I essentially wanted to make. I want to make sure I do some breath work with you guys. I know you've been hearing the meditation music the whole time. I hope it wasn't crazy sound. But yeah, I'm gonna even include like, I'm gonna give the men some love because it's giving me a list of men. And Amanda did not include in here. I will also include, but yeah. So they have. I wanted to shout out Kunle Afolayan. You know, I will always love Kunle Afolayan's work. He is top tier when it comes to Yoruba filmmaking, storytelling, and though his work can be very period focused, it's still very futuristic because where had you ever seen anything that gorgeous telling you about stories and like detailing the experience of like the Oba, and his court, right? Like absolutely beautiful, dense, educational, informative content and stories and art that we must digest and demand more of. So this idea of like Kunle Afolayan kind of like being the old guard and there's something new, I'm going to be looking to watch more of Funke Akindele's films because I'm less familiar with her work. I've seen some of her work that I love. But when it comes to preserving and advancing Yoruba culture, education, like art, that's definitely Kunle Afolayan for me. And so there's him, there's Laolu Sembanjo, who I believe I saw some of his art with the Children of Blood and Bones visuals. I'll come back to that. What's up, Laolu? Laolu used to teach it with us as well at the Yoruba Cultural Institute. We did a lot of stuff together, NYU, etc. There's some other names on here that I don't know. Temitayo Ogumbi actually was a student at the Oduduwa School of Yoruba. So she, I believe, is a big artist now. And yeah, who am I forgetting? I'm thinking of our brother Fumi, who left us, who was very futuristic in his like sort of Congo, sound. And rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace, brother Fumi. Um, yeah, I mean, there's so much to engage with when it comes to Yoruba futurism. And I want to just say a few words on why distinguish Yoruba futurism, right? So Afrofuturism is becoming a field, like a fully understood field in education, right? And when you start to take something as important as Afrofuturism, you start to take it seriously, you'll find that there are so many streams because now we're talking about applied Afrofuturism implementation. And that's where I believe Yoruba futurism is really distinct because we've seen a lot of concrete like development from programming, right? And there's a lot to be said for why Yoruba people distinctly have had the access to be able to travel, to be able to document, to be able to make art. Because why are we so sort of oversaturated in these spaces when it comes to super successful artists and super successful anything, especially visually and creatively, right? There's something to be said about that. Look at Roy Shoinka, like it's not something to be ignored, right? So when I look at my effort to practice Yoruba and speak Yoruba only, we got to read some scriptures in Yoruba tonight. When I look at that effort and how rare it is for me to find people who are talking about topics that I'm interested in Yoruba, how difficult it is for me to have the opportunity to engage with Yoruba at a level that I can do academic discourse in the language, that is a problem. Because if a language is not being spoken by the community's thinkers and builders and scientists and architects, structural developers, designers, and like urban planners, that's a problem because they are missing an essential part of the worldview of the very people that they're building infrastructure for. And there's so many levels to this, but I believe as Afrofuturism expands, people are going to find their own niche within it. This idea of African futurism, it is a subgroup of Afrofuturism, period. Afrofuturism is the umbrella, right? Black speculative futures. Shout out to the Black speculative arts movement. Shout out to Prof. Anderson. People have been doing the work. They've been writing books. They've been teaching classes. So don't play around and don't spit on their names by acting like it didn't exist. This is the minimum ancestor veneration. Let's venerate each other while we're alive, while we're here. We can celebrate each other. Don't be doing that crap where you act like these people don't exist because you have a beef. Let's grow up. Let's grow up. Anybody got time for that? We're trying to get free. Okay? All right. I said I was going to talk about our grandmothers. Oh my God. Okay. So moving into this work, it was for me, I talked about my grandmothers earlier in the live. When I think about documenting my story, it starts with them, right? I can go back before that, but it really concretely starts with them. That is where my memories begin. It is on the land with my grandmothers, right? And my mother and my aunties. And that is where my story begins, on the concrete, on the canvas, like in the material, realm. And so I have to document that. But we are here because they prayed, because they fought, because they cried, because they kept going, right? Their prayers for us were the first form of our experience futurism. All that science about how like the the ovaries or the eggs I'm carrying already have the DNA of like my future grandchild or whatever, right? Like our grandmothers made sure that we existed and they took care of us and they fought and they suffered, and we owe them nothing less than to like uplift their names, our mothers, our fathers, etc. Like I shout out to my sister Zai. Zai Aliyu, who is like a superstar artist. If you haven't heard of her, you may or may not know that we're related because you don't always see me use Aliyu, but yeah, that's my baby sister. And I am incredibly like, I stand. She's doing insane work at the intersection of art, technology. I don't know if she's really doing language, but like history, identity, narrative, right? Like very, very sought after and adored artist. So does Yoruba culture only embrace Nigerians? Sorry that I just seen your comment. No, Yoruba is everywhere. One of the reasons why Yoruba futurism is so important is because Yoruba is spoken all over the world, not just by people who left Yoruba land in Nigeria in the last, couple of generations, but we're talking about people who were enslaved all over the Western Hemisphere, have Yoruba roots, right? And so we don't know the complete numbers, but we know that there is a dense population of Yoruba like cultural practitioners and spiritual practitioners and language speakers in Brazil, huge population, right? And so these maps are a mess because the way that they talk about Brazil having the biggest population of like, black people like outside of Africa is bananas, right? And so to think about a country like that where a Nigerian goes, a Nigerian of today goes to Brazil and then sees that they're speaking the languages, like they're taking the language seriously, they're taking the spirituality seriously, whereas you in the country where it came from, you act like it's fetish or whatever. So that's why Sophie Oluole's work is so important, because she demonstrated that this is not fetish. This is science. This is a history of a people. This is the language of a people. This is how people, a specific group of people, understand the world. And these people are very important because there's a reason why these people are everywhere now, running things all over the place. There's a reason why when these people enter a space, they completely transform that space. What is it about Yoruba people? What is it about Nigerian people? Right? So Yoruba futurism is specific to this group because there's a very distinct memory, there's a very distinct feeling and texture and aesthetic and story and narrative and sound to this group. And this group must preserve itself. It must sustain. I must hand it over to my child. which means I must know what I need to know, right? I've been studying, like, light studying Yoruba and reclaiming Yoruba for a long time. Now it becomes much more essential that I impart it to my kid who's about to, like, be old enough to go and do her own thing, right? So in so doing, I have to practice the language. I have to speak it. So Yoruba, but Nibo, who am I going to speak it with? Where I can talk about this sort of information. I can talk at this level. Some AI tools. So I've been talking to some of you about a language, like, like a group chat or whatever, or a language practice group. I want, really, my goal is that by the time of the UNGA this year, that we can actually attend speaking Yoruba only. I would be so excited if anybody would take that challenge on with me, because it would really help me to stay, like, on it, but at least, if not an hour to 5 hours of Yoruba only per day, right? How do we get to a point where we can actually function entirely in our languages, and we're having the most advanced, most intentional, most thoughtful conversations that are very specific to the material that we're engaging with now? Yoruba Futurism is about taking Yoruba out of the past and not saying that it is a liturgical language that goes with the spirituality, or not allowing it to die in the urban setting, right? Not allowing the language to die in the metropolis, or just become so infused with other words from other languages that it becomes something else. We don't even understand the value in the original language as it is. So the work is to study the actual language that we have now before we lose it, secure that language, and build upon that and expand it. What is Yoruba 2.0 and Yoruba 3.0 and Yoruba 10, whatever sound like, as the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha go and advance the language? Or do you want the language to just be half borrowed words from English? Hell no. When I switch into Yoruba only, I do not speak any English words. I do not speak any English words. And so anything that I have to say, I have to find a Yoruba way to say it. That is the practice of mastering the language, like the real language. And so if you're studying Yoruba, if you want to practice with me, if you want to do a conversation hour, comment below, get in touch with me. If you want to do a meetup, if you're on the East Coast, let's talk about it. August is the month for that. Yeah, Yoruba Futurism means speaking our languages, understanding our histories, knowing our family trees. Thank you to my dad. Shout out to you, Daddy, for creating the family tree and giving it to all of us. Shout out to the aunties and uncles that have the orikis. Get your orikis. Get your orikis documented, and get your. I'm just laughing at a comment. Somebody said I look like Michael Jackson if he was a girl, and I'm cracking up. I love Michael. I'm a huge Michael fan. I have some questions, but I'm a huge, huge, huge. I can't help but be a stan. Shout out to the aunties that remember our orikis, that record them for us. Shout out to the aunties that take care of us, that house us, that feed us when we're out here, figuring out life. Who tell us about life, who bring us in and share and cook for us and make it cook for us. Shout out to Auntie Kenny. Shout out to Uncle Bill Dune. Shout out to Dolakpo and Bolanle. Y'all know, I cannot but love you. There's nothing I can do but love you forever. So I said it all. What else I gotta say? I gotta go to sleep. It's been a long one, but I hope y'all got something from this. I hope you understand what Yoruba Futurism is and why it's important, and why we can't just focus on, like, the past and, our grandparents spoke this language. My two grandmothers did not speak English. Well, no, I think my dad's mom spoke a little bit English, but my mom's mom did not speak English. That was one of the key things, one of the key reasons why I didn't get to keep in touch with her even after I moved to the U.S., because I couldn't speak Yoruba with her, which is a terrible shame. Terrible shame. Imagine the knowledge she could have given me as my 8-year-old self talking to my grandmother in Yoruba on the phone. The crimes that we do. Okay, I'm gonna go eat my kale salad. I only did a little bit with the grocery bags, but I'm gonna do some more, and maybe I'll give you some update when I see you next time. All right, love y'all. Thank you for being here. Subscribe, engage, comment. I want to hear from you. I want to know more about you guys. I want to know where you are watching from. I want to know what you're working on. Are you creative? Are you Yoruba? Like, I want to know what you like. I want to know what you want to talk about some more. Also subscribe to soulmedicine.substack.com. You want to work with me? Go to noirlabs.space or email us at team@noirlabs.org. I'm really eager to do some team retreats, some team building work. If you have a team or organization that you want to bring back, a deeper sense of integration. You want to bring back some play. You want to bring back some fun. You still have a little bit of like warm weather left to do some outside play, some outside yoga, some movement, some dance, some music, some writing, some structural work, right? How do we do the playing and then like the visioning and then put that, like structure that into a plan, into a technology tool that will then automate and upgrade and all of those things. That's how I like to work with teams. I've done that type of work with the Brooklyn Arts Council. I've done smaller projects with Amazon. I've done other projects with Yale, Sci City, African Studies. So if you want a coach, a partner in building something that is meaningful culturally, as far as curriculum, as far as technology, as far as events, I'm your girl. Get in touch. All right. Love y'all. Talk soon. Oh, I said I was going to do a breath work. I can't not do breath work. Spirit will beat my ass. Okay. We're going to do breath work and then I'm going to go. This has been just much longer than I usually do, but let's breathe. Can we do that? We always like to do 3 breaths together, right? So let's do another 3 breaths. Let's bring up your inner child. Is there a version of your inner child that needs some love right now? Is there a version of your inner child that's popping up in your mind right now or recently? Let's sit with that version of you for a moment. Let's just look into her eyes, his eyes, their eyes. Just look into your eyes. Your present self looking into the eyes of your inner child. Is it if you want to giggle? Ask her, how are you? What you need? Okay. Ask her what she needs. Whatever your inner child needs, we're going to give it to you right now. Okay? Let's just breathe. Activate your energy. Feel the light moving through you. Activate your grid, your light grid. And bring it to you right now. Feel the experience. Feel what the touches. What does it feel like on your skin when this is manifesting? What does it sound like? What sounds are you hearing? What's the taste in your mouth? What's the taste of the air? What does it feel like? I hope that did something for you. I love you guys. I appreciate you coming through. Let me shout out some of y'all who commented. Okay, I always love to do that. Doxy said hi. Lawson Penaluna, thank you. Nico, TC San Fran, Sky Car, Jason Pritchett. Oh man, Life 50s, Jordan Kelly. Y'all are so sweet. I appreciate all the love. It means so much to me. Come back soon. Subscribe if you haven't so you don't miss any updates. All right, love y'all. Be blessed. Enjoy your manifestation of your blessings.